in your role as Chief Technology Officer at DataVita, you've had one of the worst jobs probably over the last 3 months, which is not even that, probably 2 months, which is trying to sort out the commercial shit show, which is Broadcom buying VMware.
Yep.
So anyone who's not a techie now, you can just stop watching. I would recommend. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
Move on to the second segment.
But Broadcom, who are a big, nasty American organisation,
Yep.
who have a history of taking really good tech companies and basically asset stripping them, I guess, to a point.
Yeah. 100%.
And really underinvesting in them, taking out all the profit and screwing the customer base is their kind of MO. And we've seen that again, that behaviour with VMware. Now, I think VMware's impacted more because it's at the foundation of almost every bit of enterprise IT and every service provider data centre.
Yeah, it's so integral to what a lot of organisations are doing.
And that's why they bought it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and in fairness, it is the best hypervisor available.
Yeah.
In terms of it is and it's not just the hypervisor element, as we well know. It's the whole ecosystem round about it. That's where the problem comes. The way they've done it, the very, very little notice, the level of information, cancelling the partner programs for all partners, and then starting from scratch and basically ripping up how it worked before and completely changing that on such a short time scale and such an integral. I can't understand how they're allowed to do it in the manner they've done it, to be honest.
It's called greed and profit.
Well, yeah, I guess that is, but I get even just for the competition law perspective and stuff like that, because that is playing into the hands of public cloud and these kind of providers as well, where that offering becomes a lot more attractive potentially.
It's funny how VMware was always seen as the last bastion for the private ecosystem.
Yep.
And it's actually VMware who's tried to put the last nail in the coffin for that. And the guys at AWS and Microsoft, they must be absolutely rubbing their hands.
They will be. They will be, because we've did a lot of work looking at alternates, and there are. It's not to say I'm not saying for a minute there aren't any alternates out there, but you're not going to move for VMware to an alternate in a matter of a couple of weeks. It takes planning, it takes thought, it takes a whole migration process. It's the ecosystem. It's the biggest problem, is finding the tool sets that work with them. If I was a backup vendor or a DR tool vendor, I would definitely be all over looking at alternate hypervisors and try to make my products work with them, because that would open up a whole world of opportunity.
And that's where we got to. It was almost like a Rubik's Cube that was fighting us back. It? We would think we'd get one solution, then there's a white bit on the wrong side. So we spoke to everyone from Proxmox to KVM to Nutanix to Citrix, and we spoke that we looked at everything, and some few and weird wonderfuls in between. But if we look at a couple of different scenarios, within our data centre, we've got a massive investment in the ecosystem. So VMware sits at the centre of it.
Yep.
Then we've got a massive investment in storage and networking and backup and all these other systems monitoring that dwarf the size investment time, and they actually dwarf the actual VMware element. There's millions and millions of pounds of stuff. That's my wallet that rely on VMware. So whatever way we moved, if we went to another hypervisor, one would say, okay, it works perfectly, but see that multi-million-pound investment in your backup technology?
Yeah, you're throwing it out.
That throws it out, and all of the legacy data that's on that, you're going to have to migrate, and migrating backups is an absolute disaster.
It's a nightmare.
Then we said, okay, well, let's do this other one, because the backup vendor supports this. So let's look at this one. But then you'll need to put all your storage in the bin. So all those petabytes of storage that you have,
you're replacing it.
You're replacing it. So we've actually been kind of painted into a corner where the only solution is to try and re-architect our systems to work with it. So annoyingly, VMware. What was the drop dead date for the termination of our contract? Was it the 31st of March?
31st of March, yep.
And we got our final pricing when? 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
2 weeks ago.
It wasn't even 2 weeks.
Yeah,
about a week and a half ago.
About a week and a half ago. So we've been told since Christmas that our partner agreement's getting terminated at the end of March.
Yep.
And we'll need to buy via the new model, which...
with very little notice.
But we found out. And it's not only that, there's new support kind of interoperability and how it's put together. So that's left us in this situation.
And they want you to do a 3-year commitment. So it's not just a on-demand anymore. There is an on-demand option, but the on-demand pricing is very, very.
So I think for one of our customers who we have an on-demand model with, it was almost doubling the price. If we just passed that on to that customer, it would have been your cloud prices is now doubled. So I guess what have we done to mitigate that? Because I think there's a lot of valuable lessons. We've not been able to mitigate 100%.
No.
We are going to have to spend. We are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, on new compute. Because our current CPU ratios, stuff we never had to worry about, we now need to worry about. So we're having to spend millions of pounds on compute to get to a model that works with VMware, because we're basically going for more powerful, higher consolidated core counts to go from that. So what advice can we give someone who's sitting there with an old VMware cluster who's received their renewal bill and it's double the price? What's from a techie, and this isn't a DataVita sales thing. From a techie point of view, what can they do?
So I think first and foremost, you need to understand your workloads that you're running on that platform. You need to look at your architecture. Again, are you using physical segregation versus logical segregation? That kind of stuff. Is there consolidation that you can do in terms of that? What you really, the only way you can really get around it is understand your workload entirely. So whether that's making sure that your VMs that you've got aren't fat. So that you're running VMs with 4 CPUs when they could quite happily run with 1. That kind of stuff to kind of slim down, trim down what you've got. Understand your CPU ratio as well too.
So it's all about the CPU now?
It's all about the CPU.
And it used to be all about VRAM?
And it used to be all about VRAM. So it completely flips in his head. The whole thing around CPU ratio, I know we often have conversations about CPU ratio. Make sure you understand that fully, and make sure you understand what good practices and stuff like that. People, again, the whole reason virtualization was born was to get that ratio, and obviously the higher the ratio you go, depending on your VM workloads, you do run a risk that you could potentially have some performance impact for certain workloads. But there is a sweet spot where you can actually get it right and probably save yourself a pile of money as well. So it's all about, I like the sound of my own voice, but in one word, it's all about optimization, CPU optimization, really.
And I guess it's the poor buggers that either have very, very low core counts in terms, old CPUs basically. Because there is it doesn't matter if you've got 7 cores, they're going to charge you for 16 regardless.
Yeah, it's a minimum 16 cores per CPU.
And we know of a lot of customers who have actually optimized their core count for Microsoft licensing purposes. So they did the right thing, said actually we can reduce our licensing purposes by making sure that we've got a certain amount of sockets and a certain amount of cores. And with the new VMware model now, it decimates it.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely decimates it. But I think the market will react to this as well. I think it's going to have to. I think you're right in terms of, I think the interoperability will improve with the likes of other vendors. It's going to have to.
I think for me personally, a plan B wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because
if they do this, what's the next move?
Yeah, who knows going forward, and they do have history with Symantec and things like that, where they have done, and you say that asset stripping, what's to stop them in 3 years' time saying, right, let's do another, let's try and get get another chunk of cash out of this.
Well, what's next? A customer that uses Site Recovery Manager, they triple the price, quadruple it, discount it.
But that also, if you think about it, that plays into what's to stop public cloud providers and these big, mega organisations turning around and saying, you know what, we're going to rip up the rule book and completely change.
Yeah. No.
And what levers do you have at that point? Because obviously an organisation like that, they decide to do that,
And that is the worry with public cloud, because there's a lot more in public cloud than now than there is sitting with VMware. So, well, thanks very much for coming on. As always, enjoy the chat. It's quite therapeutic in here, isn't it?
It's very nice.
You forget there's cameras sitting around with you. I think in terms of a DataVita point of view, we'll probably do more of these kind of techie chats in terms of what you're doing. But I thought it was really important to get the story out you. because hopefully there's somebody sitting in the Royal just now who stumbles across the podcast and it gives them a wee bit of hope. So,
well, if it gives the MD any kind of hope, then it's been well worth doing.
Excellent. So, cheers, Brian.
Thank you. Cheers.